Yes, we are introducing a series called Land Matters, and it's powered by Revolution Plus Property. My name is Tolulokpe Onolaja. I'm the Group Executive Director of Revolution Plus Property. I'm going to be taking us in the next 4 weeks on an e-series, enlightening the public about land. How do we acquire lands? What are the things to check out? What are the things we need to know? It's just going to be an enlightenment and an educative series. So always stay tuned. Every week we're going to come with different topics. But today we're going to be starting with land. So what is land? We said land is that part of the earth's surface that is not covered by water. It's the surface that is not covered by water, the mainland where we build on. We can also say land is the solid surface of the earth that is not permanently submerged in water. Of course, we have lands that are reclaimed. We have lands that are reclaimed from water, and then they sandfill and they become, that tableland, that bare land that we can build on, and no longer, lands with water. Now, how do we acquire lands? Okay, we're a real estate company, we sell lands to people. You acquire lands through different means. The first and the most popular one is through the traditional owners, the so-called omoniles, like we know in the previous times. They call them omoniles. They are the traditional rulers. Maybe they inherited it from their forefathers, or they were the first people who got to that particular place. So it becomes theirs, and the government and the Land Act also recognizes this traditional, four owners of this land. So they are called generally omonile. So we buy lands from them at times. Another point, another way of acquiring land is also, you could also buy from someone who has already bought. So you could buy from private owners or private individuals. So I bought a piece of land before, and I want to resell. Maybe probably it has appreciated in value. I want to resell. I can resell. So that's another way of buying, landed properties too. I can buy from an individual, that's a private owner. Then of course we can also buy land from the government. So there are lands that have been owned. That's why you hear government allocated C of O. Because generally in the states, in every state, the land on that state is owned by the governor of the state. Because the law confers the ownership of the land to the governor of the state. So ab initio, all lands are owned by the state governor. He has power over all the lands in the state. But of course, the government is not the only source where a developer or an individual can buy a land from. So you could buy from someone who has already bought, could buy directly from the government. Of course, government sells their government allocated land. They sell to people, and then of course you can buy from the omonile, which is mostly common, way that we get land to buy. Now, what are the things to consider when we want to buy a piece of land, a piece of earth? Because I always say land is earth. That's earth, and that's why there is a lot of complexity with land matters, because it is earth. When you want to buy a piece of land, what exactly do you want to use this land for? There are different purposes why we buy land. It could be for agricultural purposes. We want to use it for farm. That's farmland. I want to buy land to farm, to fish, and to do all that with agricultural purposes. We also could buy land, we want to build on it for residential purposes. I want to buy the land, I want to build on it and live there. We also buy land for speculative purpose, meaning that I want to buy, I want to keep it, like people who say land banking, I keep it, when it appreciates, I resell, I just keep it there. Now, these are several reasons why people buy. But in buying a piece of land, there are some fundamentals we need to know. When a land is titled, of course, our next series, we're going to be talking about titled and untitled lands, what are the various types of title of lands that we have. But today we're concentrating on just land and its introduction. Now, in terms of land, there's something to look out for, location. There's something in real estate, we say location, location, location. Why do we say location? Because you can have two pieces of land, the same square meter. They may probably have the same title, maybe both of them have C of O. And then you realize that the prices are different. Why do we have these differences? We have these differences because of location. So we have developed areas, we have upcoming areas that are not really developed. I always tell people when you want to start investing and you want to start small, investing in real estate, you start from the upcoming areas. It's better development meets you than for you to buy development. When you buy development, you pay more. Now, a lot of people want to invest in real estate. They want, lands that are in developed areas. I want Lekki Phase 1. I want, on the mainland, I want Magodo. I want Ikeja, GRA. I want all of these places. 20, 30 years ago, these were developing areas. Those who bought then, I always tell people, buying land is foresight. You need to have foresight to be able to invest in real estate. Because without foresight, you'll find out that, you just be like, oh, this place is bush. Ikeja was bush some 20, 30 years ago. Lekki today was Morocco. So many years ago, people didn't want to stay. So it is water, I don't want to stay there, I cannot invest there. But look at what it is today. So in buying land and investing in real estate, you must think of, the future. It is for people who have foresight. If you don't have good money to spend, then you start with upcoming areas. But if you're ready to buy development, for instance, I want to buy a place, I want to buy a property that I want to buy and build. So for instance, in Revolution Plus, there are different categories of properties we have. There is the buy and build. There is the buy to keep, to keep there till when development meets it. Those are the, the lands that, are cheaper in prices, the ones that are easily affordable. They are not in developed places. They are not in places where I can start buying now, I can start building. They are probably places we buy 3 years, 5 years time, we need to leave for development to meet us there. And that land would have appreciated over the years, because once development comes there, the places open up. I know of some people who will never buy developed areas. They will tell you, instead of buying developed areas, I'd rather buy upcoming areas, areas that are just coming up. So when I buy an upcoming area, I make more money. Because when development comes, it meets me there, government opens the road, sets up industries, factories and all. My property begins to appreciate. I remembered when we started in Mowe Ofada, Revolution Plus, which was our first estate. The place was bush. We had to part, our hands to get there. But over time, a lot of factories came, Nestle factories, towards the Papalanto interchange and all. And that place suddenly today has become, when you go there, you cannot even recognize the place. It's now open, people are leaving. But if at that time we looked at it and said, oh, this place is bush, nobody will buy. People still bought, people who, could see the future, they bought into it at that small price. So when we want to buy property, also ask the first fundamental question you must ask when you're buying a landed property: what is the purpose of this property? Am I using it to build? Am I buying somewhere I want to build and live now? Then that means I must have good money to buy it, because it will be pricey. You are buying development anyways. Then, or I have just this little money and I want to invest it into real estate, then let me buy an upcoming area. Let me buy an Ibojuleki, for instance, where I know, okay, I'm going to get it cheap. But that was then anyways. Now, Ibojuleki is now hot cake, because no more extension in process and all that. We're going to get to title and I'm going to talk more on that. But, so, upcoming areas are good for starters. You want to start investing, you want to start small, and you want to grow your investment portfolio. Then you start with the upcoming areas, and then you grow, your portfolios. Now, when we buy lands, what are the things we should expect to be given? So, like Omonile, they'll give you a family receipt. So you buy a land from Omonile, what they give you is a family receipt. If you are learned, of course, you will prepare a contract or a deed of assignment and give it to them for them to sign. But basically what they give is family receipts. But in companies like Revolution Plus, when you buy a piece of land from us, the first thing we will issue to you is a receipt and an invoice. So we give you an invoice. The invoice will state the cost of the land. It will also state the cost of your survey, your deed, and the associated statutory fees. We're going to invoice it separately. The cost of the land comes directly to the company, while the statutory fees like the survey and deed goes to the lawyer or the registered surveyor who is going to prepare the survey for the plot you are purchasing. So we separate those invoices into two. So when you make payments, we also, receipt your payments. They will also issue you, apart from the receipt, the invoice, we issue you what we call a contract of sale. A contract of sale is a document, that binds both the seller and the buyer. So it states, that contract of sale states what are the purchaser's obligation and what is the company's obligation. So it states the duration at which that contract is binding. So for instance, you've made payment, there's a contract that exists, so it establishes that there is a relationship between the two parties, between Revolution Plus and yourself. Then after that, that holds you until the payment is fully done. The contract of sale ceases to, it goes null and void when we issue you a deed of assignment and your survey. So when we conclude the transaction, you finish paying, you've been allocated your plot, then you get a survey and a deed of assignment with a restrictive covenant that guides you and how you operate within the estate you have been allocated. So at the initial term, you get a receipt, you get an invoice, and a contract of sale. That's at the point of purchase, at the initial. At the close of the transaction, when you fully paid and you have to be allocated, you get your survey, your deed, and your restrictive covenants that guide the estate. So thank you. I'm going to close on this concerning land. How do we get land? What are you to look out for? Why do you buy land for residential, for commercial? People also buy land for commercial purpose, for industrial purpose. They want to build factory, they want to build industries. They also buy. But basically in Revolution Plus, what we sell is residential plots, lands that people want to use, to build homes, because we are here to provide affordable housing to Nigerians, both at home and in diaspora. So thank you so much for today. Thank you for listening. Stay tuned. Next week, we're going to be talking about land titles. What are the various kind of lands we have? What are the titles that we have? I know a lot of us have heard C of O, R of O, what is excision, what is gazette. Stay tuned and hook up with us next week. I will give a detailed explanation and education on what these are. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you and God bless you.
Revolution Plus Property. Affordable housing.